Hello and welcome to the Public Sector I Heart You podcast. My name's Matthew from West Midlands Employers, and I'm delighted and thrilled to be joined today by Kat Thorne, the morning habit game changer. I've got that wrong, haven't I? What are you?
I think that was good that you added habit in there. It's the morning game changer.
The morning game changer.
One small habit changes your day.
That's good to know. And how long have you been sort of, doing this stuff around habits and game changing?
Well, officially, I've been working with teams for over 2.5 years. Unofficially, I've been doing this since my life blew up in 2016.
Okay. And, I would be doing a disservice if I didn't say blew up, you say, but I'm really happy that we don't go there, just looking around for a bit of guidance. Do we want to go there? Or do
we can go there.
We can go there, okay. Well, okay. Blown up? Wow, that's quite dramatic. You're going to have to tell me a bit more about that, Kat.
Well, I think if you imagine, back in 2016, I was living my best life.
Yeah.
I was a global commercial director for an amazing tech company.
Yeah.
I was winning in all areas of my life. I
Yeah.
was planning a wedding. I was managing multiple teams, traveling a lot, buying my first house, ticking all the things off the checklist.
Yeah.
And without any warning, I lost it all.
Wow.
And when I look back now, and actually, when I say losing it all, I don't mean that dramatically. I mean almost losing my life as well. I nearly had a heart attack at 34 years old.
Wow.
When I look back, I realised there was only one reason why that happened, and that was the compound effect of years of unhealthy and toxic habits.
Right.
Which is why I'm on an absolute mission now for the rest of my days to help people make one small positive habit change.
Fantastic. And it has transformed your life then, I guess.
Totally. I mean, and this is the thing, and this is why I love this work, because the brain wants to tell you that one change isn't going to do anything, that 10 minutes a day is nothing, it's insignificant, when in reality, most people are doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that this way of looking at things is so important, especially given the pace of life now. Like, everyone's over-consuming and underproducing. People are more exhausted and overwhelmed than they've ever been before. Yet we have more flexibility, more opportunities than we've ever had. So for me, simplifying this and getting people to take responsibility for their own well-being, their own resilience, their own performance, both personally and professionally, is something I've now dedicated my life to.
But who is responsible for that? Because organisations spend a lot of time and effort on wellbeing policies and trying to create a really positive environment for people to come and work within. But you're saying that that's not enough, or it can't just be that?
Well, let's look at an initiative that most organisations have, for example, very well-known program called EAP, which stands for Employee Assistance Programs. Most organisations have them, and I was actually with a catering organisation. So actually, they're a family-run group of restaurants locally where I live in Hampshire, and we were talking about services to support people with their well-being and their performance. And she said, well, we know that it doesn't work, but I feel better paying for it.
Right.
So it's that having something that ticks a box.
Yeah.
So it's there if people need it. But actually, in reality, the stats on employee assistance programs are pretty poor for lots of reasons. So I understand why employee assistance programs are prevalent in organisations. I think they have got a place. I think the challenge is that we have so many initiatives that aren't actually creating the impact. So I think it's a joint responsibility. I think organisations have a mandate to support employees, but I also think we need to learn how important it is to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah. And where does that start, Kat? How do people will be watching and listening to this, and it will resonate with them, won't it? That actually, your brain tells you that one thing's not going to make a difference. So how do people start changing their habits?
Well, they can come and listen to me. That's a good start.
That would be a great first step.
So I'm talking about this with teams all the time.
Yeah.
I talk about it on my Positive Habits podcast as well. And, I post a lot about this on social media.
Yeah.
But in reality, one thing that you could do straight away, a really simple exercise, is just to pause for a moment and imagine a day in the life of yourself. So from the minute you open your eyes, and I'm going to ask you to do this, so we could do this that we could actually experience this together. So imagine from the moment you open your eyes to the minute you close them.
Yeah.
So just run through a typical day in the life of yourself. What's one thing that you know you are doing that is negatively impacting you in some way?
See, I'm rubbish at breakfast.
Okay.
Right? Truthfully, I sometimes can be bothered and other times I can't. And I don't feel hungry in the morning. I never feel hungry in the morning. I never wake up thinking I must eat. And my wife, she wakes up and she has to have something pretty quickly. So I can take it or leave it. So my eating habits, they're quite poor.
Okay.
And listen, it's 6:30 in the morning, and already I found out thing that's we haven't even got into what happens after midday. Imagine where that could take us.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's look at food in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
So one of the things I never did was connect the dots. So food is fuel.
Yeah.
So what we eat, what we put into our bodies is directly impacting how we perform at work, but how we are in relationships. Imagine you haven't eaten and you're hangry.
Yeah.
How nice are you going to be to your wife or to your colleagues or to your kids or to your family? So if you were to kind of zone in on eating habits, what specifically do you think you're doing that's negatively impacting, let's say, your ability to concentrate during the day? Is it that you're not eating regularly, not eating enough of the right things? What do you think it is?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Of course, I'm not hungry at 6:30 in the morning, but I am hungry at 10:30. So what do? I'll get some snack of some description which has got oats in it, so therefore must be healthy. But don't look at the sugar content. But you do. You pick up a breakfast bar type thing and you scoff it down and away you go. But I'm guessing that then gives you a bit of a sugar high. But then after a high, there's got to be a crash, and that's probably. I feel bad now. I feel like my whole...
But do you know what's interesting about what you're saying is that most people already know what they're doing.
You're right.
But we need a moment, and this episode that we're recording today is a moment where you just go, hang on a minute, let me just press pause on my life. And that's what I'm trying to do in my talks and programs, and any time I interact with people. Just press pause for a second. Yeah. Think about a day in the life of yourself. Think about that particular habit. Think about the knock-on effect of it. And then let's come up with one simple thing you could do to change it.
But do you then build on that? So one thing becomes two things. I'm guessing you change one thing and then it becomes normal. And so therefore you're kind of almost, you haven't got a habit to change anymore. So you have to think of another one.
Yeah, because it becomes part of life. It becomes a lifestyle habit. Yeah. It becomes just who you are. Yeah. So at the moment you are somebody who doesn't eat breakfast, doesn't prioritize breakfast, which isn't for everyone. I'm not here to say it is good or not good, but you have identified as somebody who kind of grabs something around 10ish because now suddenly you feel like you need some sugar rush. Right. And so if you change that to fueling yourself, it has a ripple effect. Yeah. Whilst I think it's important to keep building habits, I mean, for me, this is a lifelong journey. So I invite everybody to commit to making a change for 21 days. If I said to you, you're going to do this for the next year, it might feel a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. I'd have to get more shreddies for a start because I've only got one box.
So what would the change be if I invited you now to commit to making one small eating habit change? Yeah. What do you think would make the most difference to you?
I think it would be that, because 21 days, you're exactly right. That's 3 weeks. That's easy. That's doable. I could, that's kind of feels like I could set myself that challenge, right? Not 12 months. That feels like a jail term. So if I can't remember the last time I had breakfast for 21 days straight, right? So I'll have it for a couple of days and I'll give up. I can't be bothered. So I take your point. I guess if I can continue to do that, then all of a sudden it just becomes part of my life, right? I just get up at 6:30 and I have my breakfast and off I go.
And what could happen is, what if you had breakfast with your wife?
Steady now. That could be a step too far.
But what if you did? Then you might have 10 minutes of really lovely conversation.
We don't eat breakfast together. You're right.
Do you know what I think is crazy now? So the way I used to wake up and the way I think a lot of people wake up is like snoozing, scrolling, rushing, stressing, and you spend the whole day giving your energy to everyone else. Yeah. The people you love the most get the worst of you. And imagine if you just had 10 minutes of quality time with your family in the morning. And I know lots of people who are changing this around. And it's because it's become so normalized that we spend quality time with our families in the evening when we're at our worst.
Yeah, you're right. Right.
And again, I think I've trained myself to eat as well in the morning,
Yeah.
because I think I think everybody is different. So what I say to people is haven't got a rule book. These are the habits you need to follow, and that's it. It's about being a bit curious.
Yeah.
Like, what works for you isn't going to work for the next person. But I think one of the things we're not doing very well in our diets is we're not consuming enough protein.
Yeah.
So if you were to have, a couple of spoonfuls of high protein Greek yogurt with a few berries, and that's it. You don't have to have a big bowl of cereal or lots of toast or anything. Sure. You could just have something very light that would stop you from kind of having those crashes in the morning.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting fantastic advice here, but I'm also conscious of the fact that you say you work with teams and with their well-being. So how does that work? Is that individually in those teams, or are you looking at the well-being of the team? Talk us through that?
So typically, I get brought into conferences, team away days, just teams in general where they've realised that people are really struggling, and maybe they've got huge ambitious growth plans, or they're going through a lot of change, and that sometimes is a one-off interactive talk or masterclass. Sometimes it's a program. And actually, one of the things I've been working on behind the scenes for the last few months is digitizing my services. Now, one of the important things about habits is our thoughts. Yeah. So a lot of people don't focus on the things that they know are good for them because they have self-limiting thoughts. For example, I don't have time for breakfast. Sure. Might be a typical one that you have thought before. And I had a self-limiting belief that I couldn't digitize my work.
Okay.
I thought this mission that I have has to be done in person, or it has to be done live via Teams, and there's no other way of doing it. Yeah. And about last year, somebody opened my eyes up and made me realize, actually, there is some really incredible technology out there now where what I can do is help teams to really create long-term behavior change. Because one of the challenges is you're getting excited now. You're thinking, I can actually make this change with my eating habits, and I can have all this lovely time with my wife, and imagine the ripple effect on my life.
I know, it's amazing. I get this for free.
But then what happens? Yeah. And the challenge is that it's hard for us as human beings to sustain change over time. Yeah. And so if we were to meet up again next month and you knew we were going to see each other again, you'd be more motivated because I'm going to ask you. So there's that little bit of accountability as well. And that's what I'm trying to help organizations to build internally. Because it's complicated in teams, especially in the public sector. I think there are a lot of different people involved, a lot of different initiatives, and I've tried to get involved maybe too much in the past, just due to wanting people to keep going with their positive habit changes. And I've realized actually the route to long-term behavior change is to create something that they can run themselves.
You mentioned it, you've said it a couple of times now, and I think it's so important. It's accountability, isn't it? It's that you can't abdicate your responsibility to your own well-being. You can't, blame an organisation because their EAP isn't particularly brilliant. You can't do that. You got to kind of step up, haven't you, and take ownership of and make those changes, because you can't put guns to people's heads. You can't make me eat my shreddies every day. I've got to want to do that, and I love your idea of committing to it over a fairly focused period of time. But do you find that is that people sort of almost want to abdicate responsibility a little bit to their own well-being?
Absolutely, and I think it's completely natural. As human beings, we don't like change. We don't want to admit things are a responsibility. It's much easier to blame other people. And when my life exploded in front of my eyes, I wanted to blame the company I was working for making me work too hard. I wanted to blame my family for not telling me or giving me any heads up on how I was behaving. Yeah. And actually, it was a really, really hard lesson to learn, that it was my responsibility. And this is what I think is so exciting about life, is when you realise that you are in the driving seat. Yeah. So if you wake up and you don't feel energized and you feel exhausted, you can change that. Yeah. That is something to do with your habits. Yeah. And if you think, we can get really into this, but if you think about what most people are doing, I'll let you guess this. What do you think most people are doing before they go to sleep and when they wake up in the morning?
They'll be scrolling on their phone. It's going to be some sort of device, right?
Yeah. Most people are looking at their phone last thing at night, first thing in the morning. Do you think that's helping people sleep well?
Can't help, can it? It can't help.
Do you think it's helping people feel really positive and focused for the day ahead when they wake up and that's the first thing they consume?
No, of course not. But it's interesting. And just asking for a friend. But I mean, maybe watching a documentary or a series before you go to bed. Is that bad? Is that bad as well? Should I not be doing that?
I'll throw it back to you. If the friend you're asking for does that, how do you think that impacts them? What's the
difference between that and reading, right? Because I read, but that still kind of stimulates my mind, my imagination, all that sort of stuff. Why is that different to watching something on Netflix?
I think sometimes it's about content.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because you're more in control, I think, of what you're reading than what you're watching, because you don't actually know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're reading something, you've chosen the topic, the author, the content to some extent. I do also know people who read books and get really carried away and read for hours and hours, and that's also another challenge.
Yeah.
But I think one of the challenges with how we live now is we are stimulated by information 24/7. We don't actually know how to do nothing.
Yeah.
So actually, if you were to lie in bed for 5 minutes and just try to be in your body and try to just relax and notice the thoughts that are going round. Whereas when I talk to people about their habits and they say, well, I've got to fall asleep to the TV, but you've conditioned yourself to that. Yeah. Or I've got to fall asleep scrolling. That's how I fall asleep. But most people will look at their phone before they go to bed and will put it down and will turn their light off.
And then 7 hours later, whatever, they'll pick it up again.
Because it's their alarm. So when I say to people, one of the best things I ever did was get my phone out of my bedroom, they kind of look at me and go, oh, how do you wake up?
Yeah.
And I, say to them, well, how did you wake up before you had a phone?
That's true.
You had an alarm clock, one of those old-fashioned things. So,
watch... The big things on the top that,
I know,
it's like a fire alarm going off.
Watch this space. Morning Game Changer alarm clock's coming soon.
That would be a great idea.
But in all seriousness, I think it's a bit of an excuse. It's become a habit. Yeah. And what I think is really sad is that we've got another word on top of doom scrolling, which is double screening. So, and it's like, oh yeah, we're double screening. So you're watching something on TV whilst you're looking at your phone.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So where is your attention?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then I think if you've got families or couples who are going upstairs and then they're watching TV in the bedroom whilst they're looking at their phones.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. And look, this has been fascinating. And I feel like I've got some therapy out of this. It's been brilliant. But I guess you talked earlier about digitising your material and podcasting. I know you do a lot of podcasting, Kat, and so people can access some of the stuff that you're talking about and get more of the things that you're talking about.
And do you know what's amazing? I've had quite a lot of messages over the last 6 months since my podcast went live of people saying, I listened to this episode and it's completely transformed. Wow. And this one guy wrote me this really lovely message and he said he's now not got his phone in his bedroom anymore. Fantastic. It's not the first thing he looks at in the morning or at night. He thinks he's a more present father, husband as a result of it, and he's better at work. And what I say to people is, don't believe me, just try it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say. You know, once you try focusing just on one thing, and sometimes when I invite people to make one change, they go, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like, no, just focus on one thing, get that right. Yeah. See the benefit, and then you'll be inspired to make more changes. So people can listen to the Positive Habits podcast. They can follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Brilliant. And if anyone wants me to work with their teams, I'd love to hear from them. Absolutely.
Oh, Kat, it's been fantastic to spend a bit of time with you, and thank you for your insights. It's been some of this stuff. It's taking the time sometimes just to think about some of this stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's been brilliant to have that opportunity, and I'll look forward to listening to your podcast. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you've enjoyed today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.